Sunday Surefire Podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me today is the co-host, Ethan Weaver.
Kamish, how we doing? Week one is in the books.
It is behind us. It came, it went, it was fun. It's always fun. It was a little bit brutal, which is going to round us into our topic of conversation here today. With so many high-profile players flopping in week one, we're just going to start the season out here with a panic or patience exercise. Pretty self-explanatory. We're going to be talking about a lot of the high-profile names that you know and the guys that did not perform incredibly well on the first week of the NFL season. And we're gonna ask each other, hey, are you being patient with this guy? Or are you panicking? Are you slamming the panic button as hard as you can after 1 week of NFL action? It's
Sell,
amazing.
sell, sell, sell.
Yeah, it's amazing what 60 minutes of game action can do after like months and months of offseason preparation. A lot of it can go out the window, but we'll sift through that and give you guys the answers here. So we'll just get it started at the wide receiver position. Ethan, Chris Olave started his season with 2 targets for 2 catches and 11 yards. When it comes
Pretty
to Chris
solid.
Olave, panic or patience?
You need to be patient with Chris Olave. He ran the most routes of any other pass catcher on the team and had the most snaps of any other pass catcher on the team. I think it's going to come his way. Derek Carr just did a great job spreading the ball out. I think 5 different players scored touchdowns. I'm not worried. The Saints had a great day overall, and great days will be in the future for Chris Olave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to be patient with this one. You invested probably a second round pick in him in redraft. And look, I mean, the Panthers were just complicit in their own demise. The game was over before it even started. There was no need to really pepper Olave with targets in this one. Better days are ahead. Completely agree. Speaking of off-season high-profile guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. enters the league with probably arguably more fanfare than any other receiver in NFL history, just given who his college pedigree, obviously who his father was, and his place in the game. But he flopped hardcore in his first game. 3 targets, 1 catch, just 4 yards. I'll start with this one. You got to be patient here with Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. Obviously, a rough outing given all the hype, but I think looking back at this, we'd feel a lot better if Kyler had hit him on that long play where he was streaking down the field for the game-winning touchdown at the end. If he had hit that one, we would be kind of just saying like, okay, like he's got his feet under him now and all that. But I mean, look, he was another guy you invested in early. All the talent in the world couldn't really figure it out the first game, but you got to be patient there. Do you agree?
100% agree. I was going to say the same thing. I think we'd be thinking much differently about his week one performance if he did score that touchdown. But Harrison was the clear alpha in that offense in terms of what the Cardinals wanted to do. He had the most snaps of any receiver. He ran the most routes. It just didn't come to fruition for him. It's week one. I mean, Justin Jefferson in his first game in the NFL had 2 for 26 on a 69% snap share. So you can start slow. I know Jamar Chase came out the gate soaring, but it doesn't happen for everybody. I'm not worried at all about Marvin Harrison Jr.
Absolutely. Let's move over to Drake London. 3 targets, 2 catches, 15 yards. Panic or patience?
This is a tough one. I want to say be patient, but I think you need to panic a little bit. Kirk Cousins did not look good at all. It looks like Father Time has caught up to him. And it's just the same old Drake London. And we're always wanting more from Drake London, and this was finally, hey, he finally has a quarterback. Let's see what he can do. And a complete dud in week one. I'm not full on panic mode. I mean, it's Cousins' first year with the team. It may take some time, but definitely not the start you wanted to see from Drake London.
What am I going to say on this one?
You're going to be full-fledged panic mode.
You should have panicked the moment you hit the button on Drake London in round 2 of your redraft league, folks. It means you weren't listening to this show. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any shares in any of my redraft leagues of Drake London for that very reason.
I mean, I tried to tell people here on this show here, and I don't get everything right by any means. So when I am right, I need to just say it
Yeah,
as
you
loud as
do.
I can. So I'm going to take like 45 or 50 minutes here to go ahead and do that. But, I tried to tell people on this one that the Atlanta offense is always going to start slow. I think people were expecting way too much out of Kirk Cousins, like he was just going to be airdropped in and just solve all these offenses problems right away. And I mean, we just saw them struggle hardcore. Granted, against a good Pittsburgh defense, and I think. I mean, look, there has to be better days than this down the road for Drake London. 2 catches, 15 yards, and there will be. But like you said, at some point he has to do it. And I know we can look at all these advanced metrics on him, and his target share is this, and his opportunity share is all that. But eventually, all those advanced metrics have to align with the box score thing that analysts just want to poo poo now, left and right, left these days. But eventually, those counting stats that we need have to be there because it's what our scoring systems are based on in fantasy. So far, he hasn't done it, and I am hitting the panic button if I have shares of Drake London. But we'll see how that one goes. This one here, I think we're going to agree on as well. Deontay Johnson, 6 targets, 2 for 19. I'm smashing the panic button with both hands on this one. That offense is a dumpster fire. Bryce Love is not the answer, and I am very concerned if I have shares of Deontay Johnson. Ethan, what do you think?
100% agree. This is not a Deontay Johnson issue. Deontay Johnson is a good receiver. Unfortunately, he may have the worst quarterback in the NFL throwing him passes. Bryce Young was 13 for 30 with 2 picks, no touchdowns. He just looks lost out there. We all hoped Canales would save Bryce Young just like he saved Baker Mayfield, but it is just as ugly as it gets in Carolina. They're gonna have trouble winning a game, and they're gonna be selecting a quarterback early in next year's draft.
They better hope there's one there for him, that's for sure. The only glimmer of hope you have on Johnson is that you saw Adam Thielen produce at a top 15 receiver level over the first half of the season or so in 2023. So maybe some of that can come Johnson's way, but it doesn't look good at the moment.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, Deontay did run less routes and was second in snaps to Adam Thielen. So Adam Thielen's still out there a little more than Deontay Johnson. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
but
see how that comes out. I mean, obviously it was a blowout too in the game, so
yeah.
they can kind of get a little bit skewed in terms of the snap shares and all that. Let's go to another wide receiver here who's been pretty established in the league and was dealing with some rough quarterback play in week one. That's Amari Cooper, who saw 9 targets, but only saw 2 catches for 16 yards come his way. Ethan, when it comes to the old reliable Amari Cooper, are you practicing patience or are you hitting the panic button?
I'm practicing patience on Amari Cooper. We know who Amari Cooper is at this point in his career. He's always been a little up and down. He led the team in targets. Well, I thought Watson looked absolutely dreadful against a good Cowboys defense, but I do think there is better days ahead for Watson, hopefully, because it can't get much worse. I think Cooper is still going to be his number one target. Now, I mean, David Njoku might miss some time too with an ankle injury, so I think we need to practice some patience on Amari Cooper.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Totally agree. Not even going to add on to that one. This next one's going to be a quick one for us, too. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 targets, 3 catches, 13 receiving yards. Patience, next question, right?
Yeah, move on quickly.
Okay, excellent. Glad we got that one out of the way quickly. DK Metcalf, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 29 yards. I'll go first here. I'm hitting the panic button on DK. I mean, he's just your prototypical fantasy receiver that you think is great until you get him on your roster and have him in your starting lineup every single week. He has high floor games. Those are going to be on the horizon too. Don't get me wrong. He's not going to go to zero. He's not going to do this every week, but that's what you get pretty much most weeks. It's a high floor, not much else. I mean, he's not going to be a guy who loses your league for you, but he's probably not going to win it for you either outside of a couple spike weeks here and there. So he stays healthy. The guy plays football. He's going to be okay, but never too great. He's why I don't want to draft a guy like him in the first 4 rounds of my fantasy drafts.
100% agree. If you listen to the show, you know that we were never big Metcalf guys. I don't have any shares of Metcalf in any of my leagues. That's dynasty, best ball, redraft. Even though best ball is the best place to get him, but he's not a guy that's gonna I think vault you to a championship. It looks like the Seattle Seahawks, they tried to use Metcalf and JSN as the 1 and 2, but Tyler Lockett just doesn't go away. I mean, JSN played 53 snaps, Metcalf 59, and Lockett only played 36. But guess who led all three in targets?
Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett was 7. So Tyler Lockett had 7. You already said Metcalf with 4 and JSN with 2. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a mess. I don't think Geno Smith's a good enough quarterback to carry 3 receivers. So I think it's time to panic on DK Metcalf.
All right, let's go to another player that's been around the block for at least five or so years at this point, Terry McLaurin. 4 targets, 2 receptions, 17 yards. Panic or patience?
I'm going to be patient with McLaurin, but I'm very close. I'm teetering on the edge of panic because I've never been a McLaurin guy, and I kind of fell into the trap as we approach redraft season. The hype started to build. The roster behind McLaurin was very, very limited. I'm like, hey, Jane Daniels has to throw to somebody. This is McLaurin's year, and obviously it didn't come to fruition in week one, going 2 for 17. I feel like the fantasy community always wants to prop up Terry McLaurin, but I mean, in his previous 5 seasons, he's been a wide receiver one 0 times, and he's been a wide receiver two once. So it's like I feel like we want McLaurin to be this alpha wide receiver one, and I just don't think that's what he is. I hope for my sake that he's gonna start playing better. But I'm teetering on the edge of panic because Jaden Daniels is gonna take off and run the ball a lot this season.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I get I get why you're on the fence there. I said patience as well for this one. A tie for the team lead in targets. Like you said, the ball's got to go somewhere. It will come to Terry more often, but Daniels is going to have his growing pains as a rookie, and he's going to run around like you said if the first read isn't there. And so it's I think McLaurin will have better days than this certainly, but I think that you need to be patient, but know that he probably doesn't have wide receiver one upside this season unless something changes drastically overnight, even in a Cliff Kingsbury offense that we got excited about coming into the 2024 season. And speaking of a player who joined the 2024 season late, let's go to our guy, Brandon Ayuk. 5 targets, 2 receptions, 28 yards, dropped a touchdown in there, which would have won me a matchup. So thanks for that, Brandon Ayuk. But I'm going to be patient with this one. I mean, he looked like a guy who didn't attend training camp and just the ink wasn't even dry on his contract yet. He needs time to ramp up. But coming mid-season, I think he's going to be that down the stretch, that high end WR2 or so. And it's going to be worth the wait if you drafted IU, but it is going to take a little bit of time to get there. So, Ethan, just tell me you agree.
I agree completely. He only played 60% of the snap share, and if you watch that game, they were in control the entire time. Brock Purdy just had to command the offense. They ran the ball down the Jets' throat over and over again. Brandon Ayuk not remotely worried at all.
All right, that's what we got for wide receivers. Let's round this thing into to the tight ends here. Same exercise. It's Mark Andrews, 2 targets, 2 catches, 14 receiving yards. This was a tough one, but Ethan, what do you think? Patience or panic?
As much as everyone wants to panic, I think you need to practice some patience with Mark Andrews. I don't think you just fall off the cliff from last year to this year. I believe when he got hurt last year in week 11, I think he was tight end one, and he is I believe he's only 28 years old, maybe turning 29 this year. But I
29
think
last week.
yeah, okay. You know these guys' birthdays, Commish. Um, Andrews, he was in a car accident a few weeks ago, and I think a lot of people downplayed that. He didn't practice until like the week before the game. I think we saw a guy that didn't have his sea legs yet. He was out in the fourth quarter on the sideline. I think he was winded. I just don't think he's in football shape. But I mean, if you look at what happened in the game, he ran 28 routes to Likely's 24, and he was doubled a ton, which allowed Likely to shine. So I think defenses now that Likely emerge, I mean, you're gonna have to focus on Likely as well too. So maybe that'll free up Andrews a little more. But I mean, Andrews was taking a lot of doubles, and I think needs a little bit of time to get back. He hasn't played in a while. Like I said, he got hurt in week 11 last year. So let's practice some patience with Mark Andrews.
I agree. Patience for me as well. And it's tough because when it's not like the targets went to Zay Flowers or Bateman or another one of the receivers. It went to another guy who plays his same position at the tight end spot. So I get why the panic meter was going off for managers who used a top 5 round pick on Andrews. So I understand that, but I'm practicing patience for the same reasons that you mentioned. Kansas City, they were chipping him a ton too at the line.
Yep.
That's something that you can see. Even maybe not so the routes down the field. You can't necessarily see the double teams, but you can see right at the snap they were getting their hands on him, making him his release a little bit harder. So they don't play the Chiefs every single week, which is a good thing, probably for the Ravens in general, as well as for Mark Andrews' fantasy outlook going forward. But speaking of those Kansas City Chiefs here, we got Travis Kelce next on the list. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 34 yards. I'm going to stay patient on Kelce. The offense itself here, it's going to get rolling on all cylinders as we get further down the line. The one tricky thing is that there's more competent weapons than there ever has been before for Travis Kelce. So the down weeks are going to be there, but I think it's going to swing his way too. He's still Mahomes' guy. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to have highly productive fantasy weeks. I didn't have him as my tight end one this year coming in for a reason. I didn't think he was going to be the top guy again, but so you're going to get more of these dud weeks in there. but I do still think there that better days are ahead for Kelsey. Where are you at on him?
I'm not panicking because I have 0 shares of Travis Kelsey. But if I took Kelsey where he was going in drafts, I'd be a little panicked. And I'm not saying he's not going to have his weeks. He is. But like I said in week one in our DFS show, Rasheed Rice is now the leading target earner on that team. I don't think that's going to change going forward. So I'm panicking in a sense that I don't think you're going to get a consistent top five tight end week to week. And honestly, I'm not even sure if you're going to get a top three, top five tight end all year. For at the end of the year, and I don't think he's going to be this guy when we look back at his points per game. It's going to be what we've seen in the past. So I'm panicked a little bit. He did look a little slower in week one, but hey, maybe he's kind of getting back in the swing of things. A lot of these players don't play like any snaps in preseason, so sometimes you just need a week or two to kind of get back in the swing of things. Kelsey is going to have his spike weeks, but I just don't think he's going to be as consistent as we have been accustomed to in years past.
Yeah, we'll see what shakes out with him. You never know. Maybe he's distracted off the field with something. I don't even know what he has going on outside of football these days.
Oh yeah, nobody does.
Wicked low profile, nothing crazy going on there. But speaking of low profile here, Dalton Kincaid kept a low profile in week one, 2 targets, 1 reception, 11 for 11 yards. What do you think? You start. Dalton Kincaid, patience or panic?
You definitely need to be patient with Dalton Kincaid, but it's just weird. He only had, like you said, the 2 targets, 1 catch for 11, and he played 83.6% of the snaps. So it's not like he wasn't out there. Curtis Samuel only played 17 snaps. So it's not like you had Shakir and Samuel eating up targets on the middle of the field. So I'm not really sure what happened. I think Josh Allen he distributed the football, and Josh Allen does what Josh Allen does. He just scores touchdowns by himself. So the offense runs through Josh Allen, and we were hoping that the offense would hopefully run through Dalton Kincaid, but that was not the case in week one. So I'm not panicking, and you definitely need to be patient because Kincaid's time will come. But I think for everybody that drafted him as early as they did, thinking he was going to be this like weekly difference maker, maybe we have to pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Overall, I'm exercising patience as well. Like you said, Allen spread the ball around in week one. No Bills pass catcher saw more than 5 targets on Sunday, which just proves that point solid. So I mean, no other receivers on this team also have like an alpha profile either. So I think that you might get a little bit of distribution from the wide receivers, but I think eventually he's going to settle in as kind of that number one role in the passing game. But Allen's going to rumble in touchdowns too, like you said. Like that's not going to change. So there's going to be some viability with Kincaid. But I'm still, if I am sitting on him, I'm not rushing to the waiver wire to make drastic changes. I'm going to roll him into my lineup again in week two. Evan Ingram here is our next guy we're going to talk about. 4 targets, just 1 catch for 5 yards. He was incredible last year, top 5 tight end finish, which was great. So we wanted to see him kind of come in and just kind of pick up where he left off, but didn't actually end up working out that way just with the one grab. So, I mean, the Jags offense as a whole kind of looked out of sorts. I mean, the guys that we thought would be really soaking up targets and inside were the likes of Christian Kirk, our guy, and then Evan Ingram too in the mix, and didn't really work out for either of them. I believe they both only caught the one pass each of them. So the Jags offense didn't look great in this one. I think they're going to get some things sorted out going forward. But so I am going to exercise patience on him, but more so because you have to more than anything else, I guess. But what do you think about Ingram and how the Jags looked?
Yeah, you have to be patient on Ingram. I'm a little baffled on the Jacksonville Jaguars and kind of how they deployed their receivers. I don't know. Christian Kirk, he was third in line in snaps. Ingram played less snaps than he typically did last year. They just didn't seem to work the middle of the field with Ingram and or Kirk. Gabe Davis, I believe, led the team in snaps, which is just pathetic. I don't understand why he is viewed as highly amongst the NFL community, but he was out there and he was kicking Kirk to the bench in 2 wide receiver sets, which was a little unfortunate. Obviously, I was very wrong with Christian Kirk in week one, which was very unfortunate. But I think with this whole offense, I think you just need to be patient. They did look out of sorts. Trevor Lawrence just has yet to take that step that we've been waiting for, and he's yet to kind of live up to the hype coming out of Clemson.
Yeah, he hasn't asserted himself at all, and I think it's kind of trickling down to all of his pass catchers. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. had a nice game, but there's just a lot of guys here. So if Lawrence isn't ready to help that group take the next step. It might be a case where you get games like this from players on this Jacksonville offense, and it wasn't the week for Kirk, and it certainly wasn't the week for Ingram. Better days are ahead for both those guys, though, so I'd be patient on both of them, but not great results in week one. And that was also the case for our last tight end here on this list. That's Dalton Schultz, 3 targets, caught all 3 of them for 16 yards total. I'm panicking on Schultz. I was panicking on Schultz all offseason. 0 shares of the guy in any format, but it's just a case of they have too many wide receivers they need to get the ball to. Obviously, Diggs, Nico, and Tank Dell are great. I mean, and hell, they even gave Mixon the ball 33 times on Sunday. So like they have just a lot going on. It's a good offense, and maybe he'll have a spike week here or there where he gets in the end zone because he's basically uncovered out there with all that talent around him. But all in all, Dalton Schultz is a guy I want to stay far away from in any format pretty much this season.
I agree, and I know we're talking redraft, but right before the season, I was offered 2/3 to get Dalton Schultz. So the other manager wanted my 2/3, and I would get Dalton Schultz. And I said no, just because I was so worried about the target share and the week to week volatility of this Texans offense. I would rather. I mean, Schultz is at this point is almost just a streaming tight end, right? In good matchups against 4 tight ends, because he tied the team lead in snaps amongst all pass catchers, and like you said, 3 for 16. I mean, with Tank Dell there, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, I mean, Mixon getting 30 totes. Where does Schultz fit in there?
Only
I
one
don't.
ball, just one
Yeah,
ball.
exactly. So you're going to start Dalton Schultz, hoping he gets a touchdown, and if he doesn't, he's probably gonna hurt you.
Absolutely. Totally agree on that. Let's pivot over to the running back position here. We only have a couple of guys to touch on here. If you went running back heavy in your draft, you probably liked the way you looked in week one, unless you had the number 1 pick. And then I can guarantee you didn't like the way you looked with
Wait, Jordan
McCaffrey.
Mason? Jordan Mason, right?
Yeah, that was the 101. My fault. Yeah, that's who everyone had at 101. But a couple running backs did flop this week. Let's start with Javonte Williams, 8 rushes, 23 yards, 1 reception for 0 yards. Ethan, are you panicking on Javonte or exercising patience?
Yeah, I'm panicking on Javonte Williams. He ran 21 routes to McLaughlin's 15. McLaughlin was targeted 6 times to Javonte Williams 2, and Javonte Williams had 8 carries to McLaughlin's 9. So McLaughlin had more touches, and I'm sorry, this offense isn't going to be good enough for a split backfield. Like if Javonte Williams is going to be fantasy relevant this year, he had to be an absolute workhorse for this team. He's not. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out too. Completely panicking on Javonte Williams. I mean, he's a guy who's in his 4th year now. He was pretty highly touted coming out of college. Hasn't really lived up to it really at all. And there was a tough injury in there as well at some point. But at this point, he's got to start rocking and rolling. He's not doing it. I mean, McLaughlin saw 15 touches, the 5 receptions. Oddly enough, only for 1 yard, which is kind of a little bit of an outlier. But like you said,
Bo Nix, baby.
it's a symptom of the Broncos offense, and we might be seeing Denver fans with bags over their heads attending games sooner rather than later. And I don't think we'll see on Bo Nix. So I don't want to throw him under the bus completely, but I didn't like the pick at the time, didn't believe in the prospect, and I was more or less proven right through the incredibly small sample size of 1 week. So we'll see how that one pans out. The next guy here, we only have 2 running backs to discuss. The second one's Raheem Mostert, 6 rushes for 9 yards, 2 receptions for 10 yards. I'm going to say be patient on this one. It was not at all what we wanted in week one. And I know Devon Achane looked way better. He's more electric with the ball in his hands. He's younger. He's faster. All these things are 100% true. I loved Achane. He was a home run cut in round 2 that I wanted to take, and I did take. So I'm happy with his performance. But we know about Achane is that he's a smaller guy. He struggled with injuries last season. So he's not ever going to be a guy who takes on 20, 25 touches every single week. And we know this team wants to use a multi-back system from week to week. So I definitely think there are better days from Mostert ahead. And Mostert and Achane, after just 1 game, they are playing this Thursday night. So they're not actually practicing, but both of these guys were non-participants on their practice estimate over the first 2 days of practice this week. So it just goes to show, like one of these guys aren't going to completely box the other one out. And the other guys on the depth chart, I mean, Jeff Wilson played sparingly, and Jalen Wright was inactive for this game. So if we see Wilson more involved, or if we see Wright coming in and taking on his share of the touches, maybe I'll be concerned. But for now, it's a 2-back system, and I think Mostert's going to be better going forward.
Yeah, with a two-back system, like you said, I don't think you can panic too much on Mostert. But if the trend of week one does continue, I would be panicking a little bit on Mostert's touchdown upside, which is why you drafted him where you drafted him. Um, just looking at the goal line touches, uh, there was only two opportunities where the Miami Dolphins had the ball 3 yards or less to the goal line. Achane was the back for both those opportunities. Last year, with those same opportunities, Mostert played 33 out of the possible 42 snaps on the 3 yard line and Achane only had 7. So it looks like that work may be going to Achane, which if you're a Raheem Mostert manager, I mean you're hoping for a ton of touchdown upside, which obviously that can change. And Mostert is still electric, but there's definitely a changing of the guard where Achane looks like he may be taking on that role, and obviously Achane crushed in the receiving game. So Mostert needs to kind of fall in the end zone if he wants some week to week stability. But I think you need to be patient, especially in an explosive offense like the Miami Dolphins, and right now they're only using basically two backs. So I'm okay with Mostert at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. We need to see a little bit more, get a little more data on that one before we make a definitive one on that. But so we'll see how it goes. But let's go to the quarterback position. Let's round it out here with the most important position on the football field from a real standpoint, and certainly in a super flex league. But let's start with Joe Burrow. Joe Cool, 164 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. When it comes to Burrow, Ethan, patience or panic?
Obviously, got to be patient. The Cincinnati Bengals are known to come out flat. I still can't believe our New England Patriots are undefeated, 1-0.
1-0, we undefeated.
It's gonna be a lot more fun to go to the stadium to the Big Razor Gillette next week when they have their home opener against Seattle. So it's gonna be a good time this coming Sunday when I'm in the stadium. But yeah, the fact that the Patriots went into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals, it's I don't know that Zach Taylor needs to address his team because that's kind of unacceptable. The Cincinnati Bengals need to get their stuff together, and Burrow's going to be fine. But yeah, a definitely disappointing performance.
Yeah, I mean, patience for sure. Chase didn't attend really training camp at all. Higgins was out of this game too, so they were down their top two weapons. They had some defensive pieces not play either, but and they were very much complicit in that defeat. The Patriots fumbling punts, fumbling the ball 2 yard line going in,
Yeah,
like same old bungles that we grew up with apparently. But
the Bungles. Yeah,
yeah, it is what it is. But there's going to be better days ahead for Joe Burrow. Like you can't doubt him. He'll be he'll get it together as he gets healthy and this team starts getting better as the season progresses. The next guy here though, Kirk Cousins has 155 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. On this one, I'm smashing the panic button with both hands, kind of like I was with Drake London. I'm down on this Atlanta offense as a whole outside of Bijan Robinson. I don't really have any shares of any of the other guys, and I'm pretty happy with that at the moment. I'll say that. But like I said, I think people were just too high on this group coming in. Like Kirk Cousins off the Achilles, learning a new system, new teammates. It was always going to take more time, and this team's going to run the ball more than they did in Minnesota. I think that's really the biggest thing people overlooked is that Minnesota's pass rate the last 2 years is ridiculous, top 6 in the league in attempts per game. So that's not going to necessarily be the case here in Atlanta. And I do think he's going to be a little bit better than this. He's going to have to be if he's unless he's going to get run out of town down there in hot Atlanta. But for me coming in, I mean he was I think I had him quarterback 19 or 20 something like that coming in, and he's firmly on the streaming radar for me coming into the year, and he's going to stay there around that same range for me as the season progresses here, Ethan. So what do you think? Are you with me on Cousins, or are you being patient on this one?
I'm with you. In your regular redraft league, non super flex, he probably should be on your waivers right now. It just like I said, Father Time might be catching up, but it just didn't look good. And if he has another couple of performance like he did in week one, the Michael Penix chants they're gonna be calling for his name. They're gonna want to see him inserted in the lineup. So that's obviously some pressure on Kirk Cousins' back. But they did give him a bag. So I'm hoping Kirk Cousins can turn around because I do like Cousins, but definitely not a great start in week one. And I am panicking a little bit on Cousins.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think Cleveland Browns fans are panicking on their quarterback a little bit as well as we round into our next guy in Deshaun Watson. 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 39 yards rushing on the ground as well. Ethan, panic or patience on Watson?
I'm panicking on Watson. Um, Not so. I mean, when it comes to your standard redraft leagues, hopefully you can stream. But if I had him in Dynasty, I'd be even more panicked. But just speaking redraft, I am panicking. It just looks like he's like lost out there. He's a guy that doesn't seem like when he drops back, it seems like he's more prone to just kind of want to run around and kind of make things happen and like extend the play rather than just kind of going through his reads. Um, but yeah, Deshaun Watson, I know he was playing against a good Dallas Cowboys defense, but it looked rough. And if you're Cleveland, you gave him all this money, and if you're ownership and you look over at Tampa Bay and you see Baker Mayfield throwing 4 touchdowns, having an insane performance, you must think, damn, we let that guy walk out our door and gave this guy all this guaranteed money. I think we got screwed. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to see where Watson went and where Baker is now. And it's I am definitely panicking on Watson. I think that we're never going to see the Deshaun Watson Cleveland was hoping for.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear to say at this case that that guy's not coming back. That guy's not walking through the door. I'll say that. If you got Watson Dynasty, like you said, I'm smashing the panic button too, especially if you have to rely on him week to week in your starting lineup. I would not feel comfortable with that at all. But in redraft, it might shock you, but maybe it won't. I'm actually being patient with him in redraft formats because he's not going to lose his job this week, and that's all I care about. If you invested in him in redraft, you didn't spend a whole lot to get him. He was probably what it was a 10th round or so. He was going in one QB format. So look, week one is pretty much as bad as it gets from a real life standpoint. But in fantasy, he was QB 17, which is not a great finish, especially in one QB. That's not viable. But if that's the rock bottom floor, like he had almost 40 rushing yards last season, which gives you an out to production. So as bad as it looks, I think in a better matchup, he can be better. I mean, hell, he got tackled at the 2 yard line last week in garbage time, and if he punches that in, he's got 18 points and he's a QB1. So like, I think he has that out for redraft purposes where he can still be productive for you, even if it looks ugly along the way. The next 4 games are against much easier defenses as well coming up, so there's room for optimism here in redraft. But I'd be panicking on dynasty as well. But let's go to the I believe he's the oldest player in the league at this point. I could be wrong about that. Aaron Rodgers, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. We'll start with you again on this one. Where are you at on old man Rodgers? Are you being patient or are you panicking on him?
I'm being patient. I think it's going to take the time for the Jets to kind of come into themselves a little bit. They did have a tough matchup going to San Francisco against that defense. That was not easy. Obviously the San Francisco 49ers have a pretty good idea how of what Robert Saleh likes to do. Um, I'm going to be patient. I think the Jets need to try to involve more receivers early on. I know Lazard ended up having a good game, but he was basically a non-existent in the first half. He got that first touchdown basically on a free it was a free play, and Lazard got open, and then he caught a touchdown, I believe, from Tyrod Taylor late in that game. But early on, it was Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall, and that was it. Tyler Conklin, no show. Mike Williams barely played. He's just coming back from his injury, and like I said, Lazard came on late. They're gonna need some of these other ancillary pieces to step up for Rodgers to be more viable because he's obviously not giving you anything on the ground. He doesn't move as well as he once did, so he's not going to extend plays like he used to. So I'm not panicking yet, but like I said, it was just a very very tough matchup. I expect better things to come for the future for the New York Jets.
I'll panic on Rodgers. I mean, but that said, I didn't have him that highly regarded to begin with. I mean, coming into the season, I had him at QB
Yeah.
23, and he gave me really no cause to bump him up at all. I mean, like you said, it was all Brees Hall. It was all Garrett Wilson. If you and I know that's coming, Ethan, the San Francisco 49ers defense knew it was coming too. So I just think at this stage too, like he offers zero mobility. So it's got to be all passing volume. It's got to be efficient and all that. And the guy's had 0 20-point fantasy games since 2021. Zero. Obviously, the caveat to that is that he didn't play last year. We got
Yeah.
that. But he still went the entirety of 2022 without a 20-point fantasy football performance. And that's in, leagues with 4 point for passing touchdowns. So I just don't see the upside to having this guy on your team. He should be on the waiver wire if you're in any type of one quarterback league that's 14 teams or fewer. And
Yeah.
with that, let's close it out here. We went from the oldest guy in the league to a rookie quarterback, number one overall pick in the draft, Caleb Williams, 93 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 15 yards on the ground. I think you got to be patient here. He looked like a rookie making his debut. They somehow won this football game. I mean, the young quarterback on the other side was very much in on that, making that happen with the
Yeah.
pick six. So
Uh,
that was it was an ugly football game all around, but they ended up winning it. Not a good showing for Williams, who was vying to become the first Bears quarterback to have 4,000 yards. 93 is not going to get it done. To for that's for sure, and he's definitely not going to get it done for fantasy. But he has the weapons to make it work. He might not be the dynamic player we want him to be right out of the gate here from day one, but you got to be patient, and hopefully you can stream this position if you're in redraft leagues, and you can kind of go somewhere else for now while he kind of works through some things and figures it out.
no, agree. You can't panic on a rookie quarterback. It's kind of funny though with Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels, right? In Dynasty, most people were taking Caleb Williams at the 101 in Superflex, right? But then you go to redraft, everyone's taking Jane Daniels over Caleb Williams, and it paid off for you. I mean, Jane Daniels crushed when Caleb Williams struggled mightily. And I do think there's gonna be better days for Caleb Williams. He's gonna grow week to week. But with all those weapons and all the hype Caleb Williams got, you expected a little better. They were down 17-0 to the Tennessee Titans, and essentially it took a block punt and Will Levis just handing them a touchdown to come back in that game. So glad I mean, good for him. He got the win, but it definitely wasn't because of him.
No, certainly was not. And it wasn't pretty for the Bears. It wasn't pretty for Williams, even though they got the W. And, for a lot of these guys we talked about tonight, it was not pretty at all, but that's the NFL for you. I mean, it's not going to go the way you think that it's going to go from week to week and from game to game. So we'll stay vigilant on it, folks. We'll keep giving you updates all throughout the season here. Make sure you're checking out this show as well as all of our DFS stuff that we have coming up here for you. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow along so you can never miss a moment of Sunday Surefire content. And until next time, folks, peace.